Ashley, I'm Bree. I'm going to be your counselor.
Nice.
So I've looked over your assessment and you've filled out your personal recovery planning. But first thing I want to do is talk to you about what brought you to treatment today. If you could kind of summarize that for me.
I just kind of got sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know. I went to my probation officer and I asked her if there was any way that I could come to rehab, and she thought that'd be a great idea. So I went and did my assessment, and 2 weeks later, here I am.
Great. So that's a big step that you brought yourself to treatment and that you acknowledge that. So that's really great. You're not being forced to be here. Okay. So what are you struggling with then? What drug addiction, and how has it kind of taken over?
IV meth use. It's kind of been a daily thing, and I've tried to cut back, and I feel like I need at least one shot just to get me through the day, and I'm tired of feeling like I need it every day.
Mm-hmm. Have you had periods where you're able to abstain on your own?
Only in like if I'm incarcerated or in treatment, like that's the only time I'm ever able to stay clean.
Okay, that's okay. All right, so let's kind of go over your recovery planning. So this just gives us an idea of what we need to work on while you're here, the short-term goals, because we're only 28 days, so that gives us a great period of time to start working towards the short-term goals. We have you fill out the long-term goals because we want you also to look towards the future and what you need to be doing there, but what can we do right now to start progressing you towards those things? So let's just kind of go over this. So you listed here the 5 most important things you want to work on, and first thing you have is boundaries. So what are you struggling with there?
I just have a hard time saying no, or a hard time with boundaries just pretty much in every area of my life. Like when it comes to my family, when it comes to my relationships, when it comes to just everyday things. I don't know how to set boundaries and keep them set.
Okay, and so this would be, so you're having difficulties, make sure I'm understanding, like with friends as well, like you don't have a positive friend group like most of your friends are also using?
My bad. Stop! I don't know why that went along.
So you have friends that are using, and
yeah.
So that's just who you're around all the time, and right. Your family isn't supportive?
They're supportive, but like my mom drinks and smokes weed, my brother smokes weed. I think the only actual positive person in my life is my grandma.
Okay.
And even with her, I don't have boundaries.
Okay.
It's more of a codependent relationship, I guess.
Okay. So you might need maybe some help with codependency. And I can't spell. I'll know what it means.
Okay.
All right, and then coping skills is what you have next. So that's learning to cope when you're not using because
right.
You're craving, or is this also coping skills on how to avoid certain situations
right.
as well?
Yeah. That and like coping with like anxiety and depression and like the mental part of it,
so
like
mental things as well.
Like knowing, like I guess getting the right tools to deal with those kinds of things, and you know, I'm not really so much when I'm not using, but I know I get really, really angry when I'm high, and so I'm hoping that, you know, being sober will help take away that anger and stuff, but coping with anger and stuff like that too.
Okay. All right. And grief. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
My dad killed himself when I was 14. And right before that, I lost my grandma, my grandpa, my great-grandma, my uncle. And as a kid, I lost a bunch of people too. So like death has been a big part of my life ever since I was a kid. and I don't think I've ever like properly dealt with those deaths. So, you know, it's always been a trigger for me. Anytime I lose somebody, I want to get high, and I know that death is a part of life, so I don't want to relapse the next time I lose somebody.
Right. So learning to deal with grief and a better way to process those things. So yeah, it sounds like you've had quite a bit of loss, and they were fairly close together, though. Okay. Yeah, that's something we can for sure address to make progress in that area. Healthy mind, body, and soul. That is something to work on. And hopefully, you know, just in the general classes, because our counselor definitely has classes on all of those things. More positive thinking, more better self-image, and we are a faith-based facility, so we definitely work on the soul part. So since I'm on that subject, you are a spiritual person. Do you consider yourself Christian?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, because those are some things that also can be in our plan that kind of help and strengthen your faith as well. And money management. All right, we all struggle with money management, right? So, how are you struggling particularly that you would want to put this on here?
Well, I was diagnosed bipolar, and anytime I'm ever like in a manic state, that's the first thing I go to is like spin.
Go shopping.
Yeah, like retail therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to, you know, get in that manic state and spend all my money and then not be able to pay my bills.
Right.
So
yes, because paying your bills is an important part of having more stability, and having more stability then kind of leads to being more successful in recovery.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, and then you listed out how not meeting these things, not getting what you want, would kind of affect you in your substance abuse. You wouldn't have any boundaries, and that's going to be to your detriment, right? Use would be the only way to cope. Yeah, so if you didn't have the proper tools.
Yeah, the only way that I would know how to cope is to use. I don't want to do that anymore.
Exactly, and then would cause even more grief on the people that you love. Because your family members have lost these people too, and then if you're not trying to do what you need to do in recovery, it can cause more grief. Yeah. You might possibly die, might lose your health.
I mean, I feel like, you know, that physical death comes last, but, you know, I've died spiritually, I've died in every way, and I'm tired of dying, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to live.
Right.
And I know that if I don't get healthy, I'm going to die.
And especially, you know, the risk of your IVs.
Yeah.
Puts you at a little bit higher risk. And you might end up homeless, if you're not, you know, doing the money management and making good choices there, then for sure that would be a possibility and cause other issues and more stress.
I don't think my family's gonna let me move back in with him.
Right.
So,
because they might set some boundaries.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at maybe these short-term goals and what we can do to maybe meet some of these while you're here.
Okay.
So the first one you have listed is get better tools and coping mechanisms. So this would be like relapse prevention.
Yes.
To what you can do if you're in a high-risk situation and things like that. Is that what you're kind of looking at?
Yeah.
Okay. And how would you know that you have made progress towards this goal while you're here?
I think just gathering up the material, you know, throughout our groups and stuff like that, and having that, you know, under my belt, I guess would be one. And I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be times even in here that I get triggered, you know, and how I react to that is going to show me, you know, whether or not I'm making progress.
Right. Okay. So maybe, you know, making sure we know what those triggers are.
Yeah.
And then And so identifying your triggers
Yeah.
and learning how to respond in a healthy manner.
Right.
Okay, so that would be a goal. So by next time we meet, I want you to make sure you've made a list of some of these triggers so
Okay.
that we can kind of address each one and maybe work through how to better have a better solution to them, and instead of just going immediately to use. Obviously here you're in a safe environment,
Right.
so what are some of those things that we can do to work with you now so that when you do leave this safe environment that you'll be able to put in place? So that's one thing I want you to do before next time.
Okay.
All right, and then next thing you have is get closer to God. So we talked about your being spiritual. So as a faith-based facility, we do read out of the Bible when we go to church, so we can absolutely implement some things into your plan to kind of strengthen your faith, give you, in each of the steps, the 12-step program is, going to help with those things too, so that you can get closer to your higher power and have more of a reliance on Him as you do that. So how do you think we can measure this? How do you feel like we can, how will you know you're having a closer relationship with God before you leave here?
I think having like a daily prayer would help. So, usually the first thing I do when I wake up is go to, nicotine or go to my phone or go to something. And I want my relationship with God to be, the first thing I think of when I wake up is Him and not those other things. I think, getting more into my Bible and reading every day would be, an indicator that I'm getting closer.
Right. Okay, and so we can implement those to put definitely for daily goals, and then we can just, when we meet up, we'll make sure that you're doing those, and if you're not, we can talk about why, what's preventing you from doing those things. But I think that's an excellent way to start your day, as opposed to going straight to the things that would take your mind off of God and maybe not getting you a good start to your day.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So getting out of toxic relationships. So how do you define toxic relationships?
I don't know. I guess just staying where I know that I'm not welcome, or where people don't respect me. I don't know. I guess I've just always felt like I've always felt like rejected and abandoned, and so I hold on to things because I don't want to feel that way, and I let people abuse me and do those kinds of things just so that I can fit in or feel loved, even if it's not genuine love.
Okay. So are usually these toxic relationships, do they usually always involve substance use as well? No, not necessarily.
I mean, my whole life revolves around substance use, but I actually am in this relationship right now. My boyfriend doesn't use meth or anything like that, but he does smoke weed. And I don't know how toxic it is. I don't know.
Okay, so maybe we talked a little bit about boundaries. So this is somewhere where you would have to set boundaries.
Right.
And then you would have to, maybe come to terms with whether or not his relationship, your relationship with him is going to actually help you with your recovery.
Right.
So that's, those are difficult things to address, but it's something you'll need to think about. But it could be, the toxic relationships can just be those people that you might go to all the time when you're wanting to use that are supplying you with your drug of choice.
Yeah, those are definitely toxic.
Yeah. So, all right. So we definitely need to set healthy boundaries. And so on that, you can start making a list of maybe areas or people that you definitely need to set a boundary with. And some of that might be going through your phone and removing some of those things. And sometimes that means maybe getting off social media or something like that too. So, or going on under an alias. Right? Okay. All right, some long-term goals that you have in store for you are budget planning and keeping a job. Did you have a job prior to coming? You were unemployed?
Yeah, the longest I've ever been able to hold a job is like 3 months. And
Okay.
then I either leave or get fired for...
Fired because of your use?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a good goal to have because then that's going to create more stability, and then the more you do these short-term goals, then these long-term goals will come into play. All right, find supportive people and recovery family. Yeah. So supportive people would be. Can you give me an example of who you would consider supportive?
I mean, my grandma is super supportive. And
so you already have one person that is.
Right. I'm hoping to like have a church family that'll support me and like my recovery and stuff. And I know that usually Christians are pretty supportive people. So hopefully when I get home, I can find those kind of people.
Do you already have you already been attending like NA meetings or any of the community groups? Okay. So that's probably something we will look at we'd like to encourage you to do so that you can start finding a sponsor. It's good to have your grandmother, but it's also good to have those other people that are going to be able to support you, and they can be part of your recovery family as well as joining a church.
Yeah.
Those people can be very supportive as well. All right, and then maintaining sobriety. So that's obviously a long-term goal for sure, and then we do know it's possible. Right, so maybe some challenges that you might have would be some of these weaknesses you listed here. You did a good job. Sometimes we're able to easily
it was a lot easier to do the negative than it was the positive.
Right, you did get some though, because sometimes we have all these weaknesses and then we can't come up with one or two.
I've always been like that.
Strengths. It's always I'm the same. So. Alright, so you have weaknesses of codependency, which we talked about, lack of boundaries, being a people pleaser, of a chameleon.
Yeah, I just want to fit in.
Right. Rebellious and depression. How are you? Are you rebellious because you don't want to conform, but you still want to fit in?
Right. I just don't like people telling me what to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then depression, do you have a history of depression?
Yeah, like there's days I go that I just literally can't get out of bed. And it kind of scares me, because my dad committed suicide, and every once in a while I have those like thoughts try to creep their way in, and so. Yeah.
So, okay, so is that something you have sought mental health services for in the past?
I mean, in the past, yeah, but I never stick with it or take my meds the way they're prescribed, so I feel like there's no point in even doing that.
Well, that's something. Did you come in with meds?
No.
You didn't? Okay, well, that's something we can check out because that can also be part of your short-term goals is taking your meds on a regular basis. So that's something we can for sure address while you're here. We can maybe get started on getting more consistent with that. All right, and so your strengths, you've got you're strong, open-minded, passionate, funny, and kind. Those are all good things. Do you have any hobbies that you like to do, things that would kind of keep your mind off of your cravings or anything like that?
Music's always helped.
Music is definitely a great thing. Do you have any other activities that you enjoy doing? No? So maybe while you're here you can identify more of things and we can use those as relapse prevention tools, you know, instead of going out and maybe trying to seek out one of those toxic relationships, you would have an alternative instead. Okay? Alright, so those are all things. We'll definitely address these things on your short-term goals, your triggers, your daily prayer and reading time, and then setting those healthy boundaries. And then just a reminder to try and list out some of those triggers for yourself before we meet next time. Okay, is there anything else that you feel like it's important that we need to know in developing your plan, or do you think we covered it pretty good today? And if not, we can, like, if we get this written out and something changes and you don't feel like it's quite right, or something else comes up that you want to address, we can change and update your treatment plan at any time to make sure that you are making the progress you need to make. Okay?
Okay.
Alright, so I think that's all we need to talk about, and so I'll work on this with everything that you've given me, and then we will get together and sign your treatment plan, make sure you like it, and then we will go from there.
Okay.
Alright, well, it was good to meet with you today. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.